So we're looking at the properties of real numbers, and a very important and crucial part of mathematics. It's not that we always ask people to tell us what the properties are, but it's important because when you're dealing with different math concepts and trying to solve problems, it sometimes helps to know what properties will allow for efficiency in solving problems. And I think these properties help you to be a better mathematician, to solve problems better, quicker, more efficiently. So learn these properties. It'll be nice if you know their names. I tell people it might be, I guess, it could impress people over a dinner table discussion when you tell people things like the multiplicative identity property. You know, that sounds big. But anyways, you can learn their names for fun, or just make sure you know how to use them. And if you learn their names, it's a plus. So what is the additive identity property? When you add a number to 0, so like 5 plus 0, you get the number itself, okay? So we say a number added to 0 is itself. Identity, think of looking at the mirror. The inverse property of addition, if you add a number to its opposite, you get 0, right? It's called the inverse property of addition, and it's used when you're solving equations especially. The multiplicative identity property is you think about 5 times 1, and that stays as 5. So A times 1 is A. Stays, like the additive identity, this is more, this is called the multiplicative identity property. Now, these properties are listed in our kit called the Tools for Mastering Mathematics. The inverse property of multiplication, if you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you get 1, okay? So the reciprocal of a number is where you take that number and you flip it around. So like 2 over 5 will be, you have 5 over 2, and that will be 1. That's the the inverse property. The zero property of multiplication, if you multiply anything by 0, you get 0. It's straightforward there. The commutative property of addition is simply when you add two things, the order in which you add them does not matter. You would get the same thing. 2 plus 5, the same thing as 5 plus 2. And then the commutative property of multiplication does the same thing. When you multiply, that is the same thing that would happen. You can switch that order. The associative property is where you have the parentheses. So the associative property of addition, if you have 5 plus 2 plus 3, that would be the same thing as 5 plus 2 plus 3. Okay, notice I moved the parentheses as I group them and how they are associated. 7 plus 3 is the same thing as 5 plus 5. Okay, so the associative property of addition, the same principle applies for the associative property of multiplication. If I multiply those two first, I will still get the same answer. 10 times 3 is the same thing as 5 times 6. And finally, the distributive property, one of the favorites of many people. If you have something outside, whether it's in that form or that form, it doesn't matter. You can multiply what's outside. So A times B plus A times C. And here it will be A times B minus A times C. Okay, so that's the distributive property. And you use that a lot, of course, in algebra. So let me use a quick example as we round up this video on the properties of real numbers. If you're looking at these terms, this is scientific notation where the number on the left is a number in between 1 and 9.9, and the number on the right is a 10 to the power, an integer power. So 4.96 times 10 to the 4th divided by that. Well, I can take care of this part first. If I was multiplying these two terms out, then I can move these two numbers so that they're lined up. Right? You can move because of the commutative property of multiplication. It allows you to move numbers around when you multiply. And here, you would bring that up. It becomes 10 to the 4th power minus negative 3. And that becomes 10 to the 7th power. So our answer is 1.6 times 10 to the 7th power. You can write it that way. Or you can write 10 to the 7th times 1.6. You'll be using the commutative property of multiplication. But this is the way we like writing our answers in scientific notation. So I just wanted to see if I could tie that a little bit into the lesson as far as how to use those properties. Again, you don't even recognize how often you use these properties. When you're dealing with scientific notation, you probably use that. When you're dealing with solving equations, you will use that as well. So keep learning these principles, keep working hard, keep giving your best. Use the mastery tracker to keep track of how you're doing in each of these concepts. Look forward to hearing how your math journey is going. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.